live tonight from Music City. That's right, it's Nashville Superspeedway. And we've got a good one in store for you here tonight as the season comes to a close. Still a few drivers left in the championship hunt. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. And with qualifying complete, let's get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. Taking the pole here tonight for the Nashville 90, sitting front row. In fact, it's going to be two of the drivers who have been duking it out all season. But on the pole, it is indeed the 99 of Bryce Rayner. And to his outside, it'll be the 55 machine for Team Watson Racing, and that is James Harris. Toby Ritter starts back in third with Jamison Correa in fourth. It'll be Nathan Meyer fifth. Tyler Meeks on the outside of row three. He'll start sixth tonight with Kevin Kirchar back in seventh. Back in the 8th spot tonight, we'll start Brad Thacker in the 56 truck. Wesley Carter ninth with William Mann Jr. rounding out your top 10. Back in 11th, it'll be Caleb Forsyth, and the final truck in the field here tonight is Kevin Martin in that 12th position. Looking at your race info tonight, again, it is the Nashville 90. 90 laps will be the distance that we run here tonight at Nashville Superspeedway, a 1.3-mile concrete oval with multiple grooves. Going to be a lot of great racing here tonight. And as always, 100% fuel, 4 sets of tires. You do have that one faster pair open setups and 2 green-white checkers if we were to need them. Well, just a couple races left in the season. Will we see a new winner tonight? Or will Rayner try to close out this championship? Green flag in the air. We are underway at Nashville. Great restart right out of the gate by the 99 of Rayner. He is quickly going to lead the field down to the bottom of the racetrack. You can see everybody fighting 2x2 out back. Trouble, one going to go around early. Spinner off of 2. That's Wesley Carter in the 22 truck. As you see, William Mann Jr. had to start from the pits. Quickly able to make his way out. We'll go back and look at that in just a moment. Meanwhile, back up front as they work off the very tight exit that is turn number 4. Still 2x2 back here as the 81 of Correa going to take that spot from the 24 of Nathan Meyer. And just behind them, Thacker trying to dive it off on the inside to see if he can clear up on the nose of Meeks. Nothing doing just yet. They'll stay 2x2 yet again as they race down the backstretch. Now, we mentioned concrete oval, and I'll pop up the weather for you again. Track temp here tonight, only 73 degrees, so I would think the bottom overall would be favored. But early on these restarts is where you really got to fight for what you're going to get here tonight, because I think dirty air is going to play a factor as this run goes on. And similar to what we saw in the real-life Cup race, as these guys start to lay some rubber down on the racetrack, the groove's going to get narrower and narrower, and when the tires wear out, it's just too hard to necessarily move around as much as you can early on these restarts. Is the 55 of Harris still chasing right now the leader, but this time it's Toby Ritters. Not the man who started on the pole. That was the 87 of Bryce Rayner, who I meant to mention did switch from the 99 to the 87 just a couple races ago. Now he's fallen back, and we know exactly what this is. Going to be trying to save some tire here early on. There's only 4 of 90 laps in the book. Still a long ways to go. And while we are early in the going here, it's a good chance to go back and take a look at what happened to this guy right here, the 22 of Wesley Carter, who we saw spin out on that first lap coming off of turn 2. And it's a tricky area. I'm honestly not too surprised to see it. Not from, Wesley himself or anything. It's just this is what Nashville is. The concrete makes it a little bit more slick on the start. And notice what happens here. Trying to get into gas, cold tires just don't mix well. And he locks it down pretty early in the slide. And you see, actually lets it roll down just enough to make sure that he's in no danger of going up and sliding into that outside wall. And William Mann Jr. obviously does a good job passing, but here's the onboard view. Boy, that was interesting. You actually saw the 91 of Kirchar was doing almost the same thing in the same spot in front of him. But Kirchar was able to kind of drive out of it without having to lift too much, whereas obviously for Wesley, doesn't get quite as lucky. He has to lift big time, and still, unfortunately, goes halfway around in the process. All right, so back at the front of the field, Toby Ritters currently leads the way. And, of course, I was not here last week. I was out on vacation, not in the state of Florida. So good to see everybody back, and I appreciate PGR owner Michael Troscaro for covering and helping us out with that. But the reason I mentioned not being here last week is obviously the action that I missed on track. And I wanted to more so talk about where I left the week before. We saw Toby Ritters had a phenomenal qualifying effort and great early run speed, but unfortunately got caught up in an incident early, and all that track position that he worked hard for to start with got washed away pretty quickly. I think that affected potentially his first chance at maybe a win this season. And so here tonight, we'll see if he can reset. Maybe try this again. Now, Bryce Rayner on the season, 6 wins. So that tells me that he was indeed your race winner last week. Oh no, take that back. It might have actually been Kevin Martin who may have gotten the job done last week. I know those two finished 1-2 at Wilkesboro. So it might have been Kevin Martin who got the job done last week. Either way, I bring it all up to note your championship standings. Nathan Meyer still leads in that championship battle, but now by only 2 points with only one, or excuse me, I think it's only 1 race left in the season. Indeed, yeah, Michigan's next week. Make sure I didn't get that mixed up. And so with that being the case, think of it, we can now start to kind of hand track who's going to win this championship and how. With only 1 race left, in theory, if you're Nathan Meyer, you at the absolute least have to finish 1 spot at most behind that 87 truck both of these weeks for it to go to a tiebreaker. Now, I don't know how they decided if it goes to the driver with the most wins. And obviously, that's going to be this man right here, Bryce Rayner, capturing that championship. And if Rayner can get the better finish by more than accumulated 2 positions over these next 2 races, then he would take that championship without it having to go to a tiebreaker. And of course, if Nathan Meyer can be the man to finish out front on one of these, then maybe he can walk away with the championship a race early. And by the way, I do apologize if my voice sounds a little bit scratchier than usual. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I apologize for that. But still, again, excited to be out here watching these guys. Speaking of Kevin Martin, last week's winner, from what we understand at the moment, currently sitting in the 6th spot. He is up 6 positions from where he started this race at. You see the 24 right there of Nathan Meyer trying to fend him off. And both the 87 and the 24 here are currently running nose to tail on the same strategy of just save, save, save right now. Too early to really push the pace, but you also don't want to give up track position. We talked about how this is one of those tracks where you fight so hard that first 1 or 2 laps of a run to kind of get yourself settled in a spot that you're going to be for really the rest of the run until the tires ultimately start to wear out. That's exactly what both Meyer and Rayner have tried to do so far, but tip of the cap to Jamison Correa as well. Of course, he got a win last season, a few podiums this season. And here he is trying to chase down your 2 leaders of James Harris and Toby Ritters, who have, by the way, started to really quickly sneak away from this field by almost a second now. The gap between the front 2 from everybody else. Now, the draft does seem to be keeping these packs relatively in close connection with each other, as Kevin Martin's going to try a move to the inside. He'll take the shorter way around, but the momentum usually with the high side here, but the 24, Meyer's struggling off the corner right there. This may allow Martin to slide clear in the end of the tri-oval. That's exactly what he does. So that puts another one of the Team Conti trucks up over a handful of positions from where he started this race at. Martin is now and by far your biggest mover inside the top 10. Second biggest mover is the man in the lead. Toby Ritter's up 2 positions from where he started this race at, and currently sitting in that 2nd spot. James Harris was able to get himself a win this season at Texas Motor Speedway. And so still in that points conversation, although not necessarily going to be in it for the championship conversation, as where he currently stands is about 12, 13 points behind your leader. And realistically, unless we get big fields these last 2 races and Meyer and Rayner wreck out of both of them, it's just too much of a points deficit to overcome, at least to get to the championship. But I got to think that if you're James Harris, open setups and all that to go along with it, he's got to feel pretty good about the job he was able to do. And I'll tell you what I'd be really excited for here with Harris is what he's going to be able to do next season when these guys move back to fixed setups. That puts everybody on an equal playing field. We get to see the raw speed only, no setups in play there. Good to see Tyler Meeks back in the field tonight as well in that number 7 Kubota Ford F-150, still trailing the 24 Nathan Meyer here as they work off of turn 4. Has been thinking about a couple moves, but nothing doing yet. And again, you got to be really careful when you set up the moves here. It's got to be kind of a, I don't want to say it necessarily a one and done, but you got to make that move happen pretty quickly Because if you start getting trapped behind that guy in front of you and then you slide, you just heat your tires up. As soon as you do that, it just feels like the grip goes away and all of a sudden gets really, really tough to try to make anything happen. So far, so good, though, as we continue on here in the early going. And so at the current moment, the man still leading the charge is all Toby Ritters. He has led the most laps so far here tonight. James Harris continues to play chase. And we just continue to watch the time delta here between Harris and Jamison Correa. See how quickly things either start to close or gain. There's the last 5 laps. And if you look at that overall trend, Correa's been starting to reel him in now. If you remember, it was actually about a second. It's now down to almost half a second. The gap between the second and third place running trucks of Harris and Correa. So again, this second group, if you will, they're starting to reel in the leaders. It's just a matter of time here before Correa is going to be up to the rear bumper, and I think that all these guys who have been kind of playing the safer route, trying to conserve tire and save it here early, are getting ready to try to make their charge towards the front. All right, let's talk a little bit about fuel. Now, in terms of exact lap count, not sure for these guys. We know it's 100% fuel, but the exact number that these trucks can go on that remains a little bit of a question. Now, figure the halfway point right about 45 laps. Maybe a sweet spot for tires. I would assume they can make it to at least lap 45 on fuel. But again, it'll be that big question on, do they feel like the tires can stretch it that far? Or do they think maybe it's better to go in a little bit sooner or a little bit later? Again, just depending on how far you think the tires can go and what strategy you want to go with. As we look at the 776 of Caleb Forsyth. And right now for Forsyth, up a spot from where he started, but back in that 10th position. And then William Mann Jr. still trying to play catch-up to the pack after, I'm assuming he missed the start, unless he had a penalty from last week. Right now about a quarter of a track behind the leaders, but remember, he did miss the start, so he had to come out of the pits after the leaders got going. And then Wesley Carter, the driver out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania, with that spin, near spin, I should say, on lap 1. Remember, didn't bring out the caution, but that got him where he is now stuck in the 12th spot. And both him, William Mann, and even now Caleb Forsyth, I think, started to desperately pray for a caution here. But the way things have been going the last few weeks with these smaller fields, the racing's still been great, but any reliance or hope for a caution just feels like continues to be less and less. Obviously, we had that late caution at Texas and a little bit of an odd incident, but that almost felt like an anomaly. That's not something you're going to see every single week. And the 56 of Brad Thacker with a pretty cool looking paint scheme, by the way. Noticed this on the grid when we were getting ready to roll green here tonight. Yeah, that's a cool looking paint scheme. I like how big he's got the numbers on the side of the doors. And as always, series sponsor Kevin Kirchar with Grindstone Developments Truck Series, but he's got the GCM sponsorship on board. That's the truck he usually runs this season, and a beautiful looking truck at that. Tyler Meeks in 7th right now. There's Nathan Meyer in 6th, and guess what? The leaders have been caught. Jamison Correa is there. Now you start to wonder, what does he do now that he is there? Is he going to make a move, or is he going to stay in line and wait for now? Single file off of turn 2. Boy, things are starting to get really, really tight. You can tell the 55 of Harris feels like he may need to start to push the issue here a little bit. There's the right rear suspension. You see Correa behind, but more importantly, the man trying to charge out in front. Toby Ritters trying to bring a nose back to get as even as he possibly can here. And they almost went 3 wide there down the front stretch. Ritters may have just barely scraped along the outside wall as they were going down towards turn 1. And what you'll really notice here, too, at this track, besides the fact that it's concrete, is the exit of turn 2 feels so much wider than the exit of turn 4. It just comes up on you so quickly. You're trying to let the truck kind of roll up the track, and then all of a sudden the wall just flattens out and you feel like you got to jerk the wheel left again. So it's really hard to get back on the gas when these trucks start to lose grip, but be very interested to see if these guys are going to swing towards the tighter side or the looser side as this run goes on. Since it's nighttime and there's a lot of grip on the bottom, I would almost think they'd get a little bit tighter as the run goes on. And here we go, Jamison Correa taking advantage of the slip-up right there by Toby Ritters, who may be starting to have used up his Goodyears as he's stuck on the outside, nowhere to go. And now the 87 going to try to make it a 2-truck in 1 lap pass here on the 3 of Toby Ritters. Can't make it happen yet. He's going to have to take it all the way down towards turn number 1. And now he'll try to make that move stick here. He's got to get it up. Can't quite do it. Wanted to slide up in front of the 3. His setup shop teammate, the 96 of Kevin Martin, trying to play kind of devil's advocate here. He wants that 87 to sneak by before he makes a move because they're teammates, so obviously he wants them to both go by, but at the same time, he's got Nathan Meyer breathing down his neck. And they were able to sort that out. Now the 96 draws side by side with Ritters, who has lost over 3 positions now in the course of just the last couple of laps. Tells you just how quickly the handling goes when it goes. By the way, we do not have any driver cams here tonight, so I'm not going to get a chance to showcase any of the cockpit, real-life cockpit action. Trouble! That's Ritters around hard into the outside wall. Caution is out. First one of the night. And Toby Ritters goes from leader to now wrecker, as it almost looked like he may have had some contact with as quickly as that truck went around, and especially on entry to the corner, you just don't see it usually snap around like that. Obviously, something we'll have to go back and get a replay of. Either way, he does have some damage, especially to the rear tailgate. Completely torn off, so he'll have to go in and either take that fast repair or make some major repairs. Oh, it's going to spin around on him again now. Good save this time by Ritters, and I would say that's probably as a result of some of the damage and maybe some of that rear downforce being out of it now. That rear spoiler being damaged. Either way, let's go back and take a look at it here. Toby Ritters, as they get into the corner here, we'll go first to an aerial shot. You see, it's kind of a log jam here just in front of him. He's got the 96 of Martin, and just behind him, he's got the 24 of Nathan Meyer. As they get into the corner, boy, that's an interesting one. It's almost as if the 3 of Ritters kind of turned in a little bit late. It's almost like they were so close that maybe it's a little bit tougher for Ritters to judge at that moment where the corner's coming. So he tries to set up the corner here to go down. Now, it's interesting because right there, he already looks a little bit loose. Like, I almost wonder how this would have played out if there wasn't contact, but I think that it's one of 2 things here. Either Nathan Meyer felt like committing and going for this spot, and the 3 of Ritters just wasn't really ready for it, or maybe Meyer was more so just kind of on a dive bomb attempt there. You know, I think if Ritters gets down the track a little bit sooner, we'd sit here and, you know, I'd be saying, yeah, Nathan Meyer just dive bombs him, but it's just interesting, like I said, because this 3 truck, and we'll go to an onboard view here in just a moment, but it's almost like, watch the way the back end of this thing wiggles, like he didn't quite get it stanced into the corner properly. Right there. It's like he's maybe realizes a little bit late that they're getting into the corner. He turns down, but I just wonder if that little bit of looseness allows the 24 to sneak down, and almost looks like maybe a little bit of net code at play, but I think they were going to make contact probably regardless. And so here's the onboard view. This is Toby Ritters. Watch and take a listen. From that view, it certainly looked to me like Ritters was taking a pretty normal line. I mean, you can see just based off the wheel action, there's nothing super out of the ordinary. In fact, it doesn't really look loose from the cockpit view. So I think that it's more so just Nathan Meyer, a little bit of a dive bomb move. Gets up and cleans Ritters out, so I'm sure he's probably not going to be too pleased about that one, and you can't necessarily blame him. Here's what it looked like here from our TV static view. Again, a pretty hard hit, too. Up on the outside safer barrier. Watch it again. And I'll tell you what, I know on the broadcast this looks dark, and I really apologize for that. It's still something with the new iRacing update. The way they make the lights on the track and the way some of these paints now reflect off, some of the angles are a little off. They just look really, really dark. But there's that big hit into the outside wall. Not only did it rip off the tailgate, but you wonder if kind of that tank slap into the wall with the left side broke any suspension components. Either way, tough start. I shouldn't say tough start, but tough in the early going here. Is only about a third of the way through this race for the man who had really good speed at the start, grabbed the lead, has led the most laps so far, but now has to go towards the back. All right, here we go. Back into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. 32 of 90 laps complete here at Nashville, and it's a great restart for the 55 of James Harris. He will lead them all down towards turn number 1. Now watch out back here. We give you the blimp cam to see if anybody slips up on cold tires. There's one. Trouble. One into the outside wall. This time it's going to be the 56 of Brad Thacker. Saw a similar issue for Wesley Carter on the first start of the race. Brad Thacker, overall a good save, but still with some contact to the left side. See how bad that affects him. Meanwhile, up front, they've quickly sorted it out. Not nearly as much 2x2 this time, and not for nearly as long. As the 55 of Harris settles in as your leader. Jamison Correa second. Rayner files in a third. Martin fourth. And so that puts the Team Conti trucks 2, 3, 4 with Team Watson Racing trucks currently sitting in first and fourth. Now more trouble. Wesley Carter has gone around on the backstretch and in the grass. The 22. Oh.
All right, man. Caution is out.
And Wesley Carter gets clobbered by Brad Thacker as he drove right back up the racetrack. Oh, man. I don't know what Wesley was doing right there. That truck was well off in the grass, and I don't even know if that was going to bring out a caution, and goes from, I would assume, no damage to now a ton of damage. Let's go back and look at what that was all about. Brad Thacker, his truck's destroyed. He's going to have to use his one fast spare now, which I guess this is maybe a blessing in disguise to a certain degree for the 56 who had actually gotten into the outside wall on the restart. But as damaged as that truck is, obviously he'll have to take that fast spare now, and he gets the caution as a break, but this was a bizarre one for me. Let's go back and first see how Wesley Carter gets spun out to begin with. Does he just get a little loose off the corner? He does. Pretty similar spot to what he had earlier in the race. I'm not sure if some component in his setup is just not liking that spot on the track tonight. Thought on the first restart it was cold tires, and I assume it could be here as well, but that's an interesting one for Carter. It's almost like he went to get back on the racetrack while the truck was straight, but then as it started to spin out, he just didn't get on the brakes soon enough, and he still probably gets away with this if Thacker isn't there, but the timing's perfect. And Thacker obviously not expecting it here. We'll go back and watch this all the way off of turn 2 from where it develops. Watch this here. You're going to see him getting loose, chasing. Goes around, but eventually straightens up on him here. Good job. And then, yeah, that's a tough break right there. Definitely when you watch the cockpit view, it doesn't look at all like anything intentional, but what I think he does here, and I'll try to slow it down for you, is watch. So when he gets this truck straightened out, what he's going to do is try to get it going back in the right direction, but again, you're in grass, so it immediately snaps back to the right. Now he's sideways, but he figures, okay, I can let it roll onto the track here, keep the wheel left, and I'll just kind of straighten out once I actually hit the concrete, which again, in an ideal situation, it probably works. But the problem, the reason you can't risk that, and in this case, proving that point, is there's always oncoming traffic, and with no caution out, Thacker here has no reason to necessarily be slowing down unless he sees the 22, which clearly he doesn't. And Carter slides right in front of the 56, nowhere to go. I mean, Thacker's like a deer in the headlights. Can lock up the brakes all you want at that point. It's not going to matter. And he makes some pretty hefty contact as a result. Let's watch it again here. This is from the onboard view of Brad Thacker. That was a really, really big hit. I'm surprised that didn't completely total the engine for Thacker. But again, nonetheless, brings out your second caution. One more view of this here before we go back live and set up for another restart here tonight. So a 2-truck incident puts us under caution for the second time here tonight. Meanwhile, back up front, James Harris still leading the field now. The 81 of Correa on his outside. Back in row 2, it's Bryce Rayner alongside his teammate Kevin Martin. Nathan Meyer and Caleb Forsyth rounding out row 3. Lights are off, so we're going back green this time. By the way, Toby Ritters appears to have retired from the race. Wesley Carter and Brad Thacker are going to start on the tail of the field here after being involved in that last incident, as we will now work back into the Geico restart zone. It'll be 37 of 90 laps complete as the green flag is back in the air here at Nashville. And another great jump for the 55 of James Harris. The 87 of Rayner this time, though, maybe going to try to get more aggressive and see if he can slot into that second spot even here in the early portion of the run. And he will do just that. You saw further back, the 81 of Correa was able to slot in front of Meyer. Kevin Martin Going to try to see if he can catch a position here on Nathan Meyer early in this run. And oh, watch out, some contact right there. The 96 getting a little tight up the racetrack actually got into Meyer and slid him up the racetrack. Both guys do a good job of saving it, but what that did do is single file them out. And now that just leaves Kirchar and Forsyth as the only current 2x2 battle. They get into it. Some contact there as Kirchar has to go down almost to the apron to save it. But he does just that. He'll lose another spot, though, to Tyler Meeks in the process as they both slide up the racetrack. Definitely seems like if there's any sort of a handling issue for most of these guys, it's kind of been getting tight off the corner. But up front, the 55 of Harris has shown that he has got great short run speed, not only tonight, but that's been the story of this team for most of the season. The short run speed has been there just about every race, but they've struggled on the long run, and that's where they keep getting beat. So if, oh, trouble, Ritter's hard into the inside wall. The 3 truck, massive, massive damage to the rear tailgate again, just as he came out of the pits. Man, the tough night continues for Ritter's here. I think he's going to call it. I mean, whatever the case was, he finally had gotten that damage fixed. And now he's right back to square one. Let's go back and look at it. This did not bring out the caution, by the way. Does Ritter's get hit, or does he just lose it coming out of the access road here? He's working his way off the access road, taking it nice and slow. Waiting for the field to go by. Getting some things set up. Field goes by, starts to accelerate. And, oh, boy, that's a major technical malfunction right there. For Toby Ritter's, I would say he's got some sort of wheel issue going on with that. Watch this. Listen to the throttle and watch what the wheel does here. Right as he's getting up to speed. Just immediately is maxed out left, maxed out right. I just got to think there was some sort of technical issue right there for Ritter's, and then immediately, obviously, pays the tow bill. Gets it off the track. So we stay green, but a very, very peculiar issue, to say the least, for Toby Ritter's, whose night has gone from bad to worse. As rev limiters earlier, by the way, good to see you in the chat. I saw said stream froze. Apologize for that. My internet was going in and out before the race started, so I was a little bit nervous and was trying to correct that issue, but I'm glad you mentioned it because I was able to remember to check that I did indeed have the stream up on OBS and YouTube, which was the issue there. So thank you for that, rev limiters. And then Big Roo says, Austin, that boy didn't even try to save it. Yeah, you got that right. But hey, man, I think sometimes guys get frustrated. You get these smaller fields, and when you wreck by yourself, you feel like you have no chance of a caution unless you come back on the racetrack. But again, for Wesley Carter, I don't think he tried his best to save it, but I don't think he was anticipating Thacker to be where he was when he was. I think he was, again, hoping that he would slide up on the racetrack and get it back rolling. Maybe that draws the caution, but just an unfortunate circumstance for Brad Thacker in that one. Speaking of Thacker, though, he has made up a few spots on this restart after being involved in that last incident. In fact, he is now back up to the 8th position with William Mann Jr. currently running behind him. And the man's maintenance, yellow, red, and black. Sundrop, Chevy Silverado just behind him. The 91 of Kirchar. Wesley Carter still back there as well. Tyler Meeks in the 7 truck in the 7th position. And then that front pack all still running relatively tight. I think that one of these Team Conti guys, as we say, it feels like just about every single week, probably have one of the best long-run trucks. But we haven't gotten all the way drawn out on a long run yet for them to really be able to test that theory out. And so we'll see if we can get it this time. But by the way, 45 laps complete. I did want to mention fuel-wise, I wonder if these guys may not have to pit. Let's see, you figure it's a 1.3 mile racetrack and about 50 laps to go. It's going to be close. If we get another caution at any point now, I would say from now to the end, then I would obviously say everybody's good to go to the finish. But if we don't, I think it could still be a little bit up for grabs. We'll have to see how that pans out. Either way, your top 3, Harris, Rayner, and Correa here at Nashville. We'll be back. Stick with us in the Music City.
full of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point. But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Welcome back to Nashville Superspeedway with Grindstone Developments Truck Series. The Nashville 90. So far, so good here on this run after a couple of cautions in the first half of this race. They are now well into the second half, though. 52 90 laps complete as they come around. James Harris continues to lead the way as he has led the second most laps here tonight alongside Toby Ritters. In fact, he may have surpassed him now in that category. Jamison Correa, by the way, still hanging a strong third. He's had a great run going so far tonight, but I'm just still so curious on if we're going to see pit stops from these guys or if they're going to be able to run it out the rest of the way. I think 40 more laps just on tires alone sounds a little brutal, so I think I'd lean towards the side of they would have to still pit. But again, I'm not for certain because it's not a mile and a half. It's a 1.3 mile track. So obviously that fuel goes a little bit farther than it would if we were racing at a Las Vegas, a Texas, any of those sort of racetracks. And again, quick reminder, these guys do have one more race left in the season. That'll be next week at Michigan International Speedway, a great track to close out the season. That'll be kind of like a hybrid between, heck, what we're seeing tonight and a Daytona where you're going to see a lot of drafting. These guys will be using a lot of throttle, maybe even full throttle for the first couple laps in a run. But then there'll also be a little bit of tire saving as the run goes on if you want to maintain any speed. And the other big storyline, obviously, next week is going to be, depending on how they finish tonight, we could be seeing a potential championship deciding race between the 87 of Bryce Rayner and the 24 of Nathan Meyer. And then obviously still fights for that final podium position. Everybody wants to finish top three in the championship, and James Harris has it right now by, well, more than plenty. So I'm going to take the word fight out of it because I think that Harris is pretty much going to walk away with that respect. And so the main battle that we'll be watching next week will be for that championship title. And it'll be the final season for the Grindstone Developments Truck Series in open setups. And I do want to be clear on that. They'll be back for a summer season. However, these guys are going to be in fixed setups. And if you're interested, you can check these guys out. If you're interested in racing, we have the link to the Discord in the description of this video. So make sure you check that out. 57 of 90 laps in the books now. The 87 going to dive it down. You see the 55 utilizing all of the racetrack. Don't forget that here at Nashville and any non-super speedway oval that we head to, you can go, there's no out of bounds. You can go all the way below that yellow line here if you choose. Obviously, it's not a very beneficial factor in most scenarios, but on the front stretch, you can cut a few more feet off the racetrack, especially as you work through that tri-oval, taking the shorter way around to try to obviously maintain the advantage. So for James Harris here, coming up on 30 laps to go, and it starts to get that feel like maybe the 87 Rainer is just kind of riding right now and slowly starting to apply a little bit more pressure as each lap goes by. And I just start to wonder, how long can the 55 of Harris hold out right here? You almost figure if Rainer gets by, he's going to set the sails and probably walk away with this thing. But if James Harris can hold him off until a potential pit stop, I think maybe he has a chance there. But if they don't have to even make a pit stop, then I just don't know if that 55 is going to quite have the long run speed to match that 87 here tonight. Battle between Kevin Martin and the 81 of Correa as Martin's trying to get that spot. And then Meyer on a little bit of an island by himself, trying to stay in touch with the draft of that lead group. There's the 91 of Kirchar and Caleb Forsyth in the 776, trying to close the gap. 7 of Tyler Meeks in 8th. There's Wesley Carter in 9th. Got William Mann Jr. in 10th and Brad Thacker. Not sure if he had another issue. We didn't get any reports or any data showing that he did while we were gone here, but the 56 has definitely, at least as it appears, lost about 3 positions from what he gained on the initial restart. As speaking of pit stops, could this be an early indication of what is to come? Caleb Forsyth making his pit stop, and obviously will definitely be his final pit stop of the night. And so he'll take his Ford F-150 down. I would assume it's 4 tires and fuel. They will start with the rights. Good indication that he is probably taking 4. And do we see him lift up the left side? Indeed we do. All right, so Caleb Forsyth, the first man in here tonight. And by the way, Toby Ritters did retire from the race, being involved in, unfortunately, that second incident that we believe was a technical issue. Up front, change in the battle for the lead. The 55 of James Harris has been passed by the 87 of Bryce Rainer, but Harris doesn't want to give it up yet. In fact, dives it in deep, tried the slider, but the 87's got a little momentum on the outside. Harris, though, going to drive it right up onto his door. Side drafts, now dives down low to try to cut the tri-oval. You can tell how much this means to Harris. He knows that if this 87 gets by, he's probably not going to get back to him, but the 87 with the better lane. Now they're going to beat and bang a little bit off of turn 2. That allows Harris to get clear, but you wonder if Rainer's going to be as friendly now next time he gets alongside him. It certainly seemed like that outside was the favored lane right there for Bryce Rainer, but I got to think that Harris and maybe the rest of the field is at a point where they're like, you know what, I'm tired of seeing the 99 win. I'm sure the 55 Harris is saying, if you're going to get it, I'm going to at least make you work a little bit harder for it. And it worked in the sense of he got back around and created about a 2 to 3 truck length gap. And it's not like Rainer immediately closed that back up in the next corner. I mean, this is still taking him a lap or so. And he tries to figure out a way to close this gap back up. So as he continues to work on that, Correa and Martin stalking in the tire tracks right now. If either one of these front two make a mistake, those two are ready to pounce. And guess who? Nathan Meyer now appears to have started to make his way back up to these leaders after just trying to hang with the draft for a little bit. 64 of 90 laps now complete. And that means in just 2 laps time, we will be within that 25 lap to go range. That's when things continue to heat up. Steve Forsyth there, by the way, is being scored a lap down. When you make a pit stop here, that's the other thing to note. You're going to lose 1 lap if you're up front. If you're in the back, potentially 2. But with that being said, that's the risk you take by pitting early is if we get a caution right after you pit and you're still a lap down, well, that doesn't exactly put you in the best position for a restart. And if the leader decided to stay out, that could obviously leave you trapped a lap down. So we'll have to see how these guys decide to approach it, if they all going around the same time, and if that's running it to the end of the fuel window. And I keep saying that is, again, we're assuming that they're going to have to make a stop here, but not 100% sure on that. By the way, they are going to be maybe catching some lap traffic at the end of this race, but it'd be so close to the end, I don't think it's going to really matter. As the next closest truck is Brad Thacker, who's working his way off of turn 4 right now, as the leader crosses halfway down the backstretch. So 25 laps. The official count can be 24, though, as we cross line this time. James Harris continues to lead. Rainer continues to sit second. Martin third. Correa fourth. And Meyer in fifth. And everybody still has a shot here to take it. We're going to take one more break, and then we will stay here all the way through the finish. Stick with us to see who's going to win it tonight at Nashville.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Nashville Superspeedway, and just in time for a battle for the lead, and it's heating up. Martin, I don't know if he's mad with the 55 or if he's just trying to maybe do what he saw his teammate do back, and that is rough up the 55 of James Harris. You saw the 96 there. He's been putting the bumper to the 55 a few times here, continuing to just bump draft him aggressively. Again, I don't know if he's trying to help him pull away, or I don't know what the deal is here, but these two, all of a sudden, seems like they've gotten really, really cozy with each other. The 96 of Martin all of a sudden has kind of prevailed as what seems to be the best truck at the moment, or at least it's a battle between him and Harris. The 87 of Rayner has fallen back towards the clutches of Nathan Meyer, who was able to get by the 81 of Correa. So that moves Meyer up to 4th, Rayner to 3rd. If they finish how they sit now, that would only move Rayner up 1 point in the championship battle. And that would mean that it would all come down to next week. And for James Harris, this would be obviously another monumental win. It'd be his second of the season if he can hold on. For Kevin Martin, he's looking for number 2 out of what I believe would only be 3 or 4 races that he's ran here this season. So again, that's another driver looking for an impressive stat line in of itself. But the 96, I mean, he is just on the bumper of Harris here. It's like he keeps looking to make a move, but isn't actually doing it. He'll finally try it here down the front stretch. He'll send it off deep into the corner here. Can he slide up in front of Harris on exit? That'll be the big question. And the answer is no, not yet. Harris able to stay side by side. He'll get the momentum down the backstretch and actually poke a nose back out in front. 96 of Kevin Martin, though, this is what he's going to do. He's just going to wear Harris out. He'll keep charging in front down into the corner of the 55, though this time going to try a little bit of an opposite idea. He'll try for the crossover, but he can't do it. The 96 Kevin Martin out front. He is your new leader here at Nashville with just 15 laps to go. We continue to wonder if a pit stop will be made, but I think if we get within 10 laps to go, you got to really get under the assumption now that they maybe aren't going to be making a pit stop here tonight. You just make one too late, there's no gain from it. All you'd be able to take is fuel. You wouldn't have time to do anything with the tires that you took. So I'm leaning more towards these front runners maybe think that they can make it. But Tyler Meeks, by the way, he did decide to make a pit stop himself. So Caleb Forsyth, not the only truck to make a pit stop on this run. That's important to note, again, just in case. As wow, now Kevin Kirchar, he is also going to make a pit stop. For the 91 here, question is, has he been sitting in the pits due to issue? I just noticed this data, or he's just sitting there, so that may not be a pit stop for service, but either an issue or has decided to call it for the night. So at the moment, we're leaning towards maybe these guys can all make it to the finish on both tire and fuel. As you see them now approaching the lap truck that we mentioned, Brad Thacker, a little while ago. And for Thacker at the moment, the 56, he's just going to go ahead and pull to the inside. And he'll get that spot back. Excuse me, he'll lose that lap, but he'll be able to blend back onto the racetrack. As this is a little bit of a close moment right there, but yeah, he does stay low, so no issues there. And it is now officially 12 laps to go here at Nashville Superspeedway. Kevin Martin, don't forget, again, if you missed it, getting the job done last week, trying to go back-to-back here tonight. And he's seen his teammate Bryce Rayner have so much success this season. But, you know, he wants to really just kind of do the same and try to catch up even a little bit. 6 wins, though, obviously not going to be obtainable with the amount of races we have left, but 2 is certainly a good chunk of it. And for Kevin Martin, with now just 11 laps to go, I think the only thing that could interfere with him is either somehow he can't make it on fuel or tire, or a caution. But as confident as he looks running the way he is up front, I almost think that he feels like he's good to go in both of those senses. Obviously, a caution out of your control, but he's going to run every lap here about as hard as he possibly can and hope that he can outrun any chance of a caution and grab that white flag before we would see it. By the way, I didn't really note this at the start, but the other thing that makes Nashville so interesting, you hear it labeled Nashville Superspeedway. I wouldn't quite classify it as that. Obviously, when we think Superspeedway, we think of a Daytona or a Talladega where these guys are bump drafting side by side at almost 200 miles an hour. But Nashville Superspeedway, a very interesting track because speed-wise, it runs like 1.5 miles down the straights, but runs kind of like a short track in the corners. And what I mean by that is look at the top speed that these guys will get up to here down the front stretch in a draft. I mean, well over 170. Some of them even approaching close to 180 miles an hour on a new tire run. So speed-wise, on the straights, 1.5 miles easy all day, but then as they get down into the corner, you're getting down to right around 130 is, again, not a ton of banking. So just a very interesting setup the way that this racetrack runs with these trucks. It certainly put on a pretty good showing here tonight, and I think a lot of these guys are going to have enjoyed themselves by the time this one is all said and done. And I'll tell you what, for Kevin Martin to be on a similar setup to what we know Rayner and probably Correa are on, I think what's impressed me so much about what he's done here tonight is we saw him hanging right with the 87, the 81, 55. He was hanging in that lead pack doing the same tire saving that some of his teammates and everybody else was. But then all of a sudden here, he's the guy that kind of prevails and gets shot out of a cannon at the absolute end of a run where you would think everybody's kind of worn their stuff out. But maybe he hasn't, because here he is making some really, really good headway here with just 7 laps to go. In fact, he's extended his lead now to well over a second. And he'll try to keep it going as we'll go through the order one more time before we keep things up front. James Harris still running second, trying to hold off the 87 of Rayner here for the next 6.5 laps. Nathan Meyer in 4th. And you've got Jamison Correa in 5th with Wesley Carter back in 6th. He's up 3 spots from where he started this race at. Good recovery for Wesley there. William Mann Jr. also along that same front. Good recovery after missing the start of the race. He is currently in 7th and again up 3 from where he started the race at. Tyler Meeks down 2 in 8th. Forsyth up 2 in 9th. You've got Brad Thacker currently rounding out your top 10. Kevin Kirchar and Toby Ritters both have retired in the pit lane due to some sort of underlying issue, so a tough break for those two here tonight. As we now come to just 5 laps to go here at Nashville, slowly nearing the end of this one. You see the gap has now stretched to almost 2 seconds between Kevin Martin and James Harris, as Bryce Rayner sits 3rd, Nathan Meyer 4th, and Jamison Correa in 5th. All these guys continue to try to just, I mean, this is that point in the run where it's mentally exhausting because the tires are just gone. You're just trying to get the truck to turn, and it feels like it's doing anything but. As we go back here and watch James Harris, there's the gearbox view. He sees Rayner way in his mirror, so he's good there. But I'll show you what I'm talking about here is watching the corner. Just as he's trying to hug the bottom, look how tight it is. Just turning the wheel, you just want the truck to turn. It gets so tight coming off the corner, but I'll take back what I said earlier, and to his credit, maybe I should say to the setup's credit, for James Harris, Team Watson Racing seems to have had a better long-run set here tonight than what they've had the last couple weeks. Assuming that is indeed the setup he runs, because the 24 Meyer and the 55 Harris seem to have been a lot closer to that Team Conti 87 machine of Bryce Rayner tonight than what they've been the last few weeks or so. One man that they have not been close to is this guy, the 96 of Kevin Martin, who is just about 2 laps and a corner away from making this race official and getting the job done. Or excuse me, I should say winning this race, but he's still got a lap of stress here, because if we see a caution, we'd get a late restart here. He wants to see that white flag. Just 1.3 miles left before he's going to get it. Watching this battle between Tyler Meeks, the 24 Meyer, not for position, but it still shows you the difference in tires right there. From new to old for Meeks versus the 24 Meyer. Here comes William Mann Jr. Actually, I think he just got lapped, so he'll fall even further back. But for Kevin Martin, all positives now, as he will get the white flag indicating 1 lap to go here at Nashville. He's had a solid night. Had a solid week last week, actually. Got the job done. Won there. Here tonight, though, it was about a little bit of tire saving, and when it was time to go, he got up on the wheel and got aggressive. And now he's just got 1 set of corners left off of turn 4. He's going to get to smash the guitar tonight, because he will do it in Music City. The 96 of Kevin Martin goes back-to-back. He wins it at Nashville. Second win of the season for Kevin Martin. Team Conti delivers again. James Harris takes second, and it's Bryce Rayner rounding out the podium. I think Kevin Martin's feeling pretty good about this one. This is another driver that if he chooses to return next season, I don't care if it's fixed or open setups, he's going to be dangerous. The speed that he's found this early in his season, and I say that because he didn't start at the beginning with these guys like everybody else. He started late in the season, but it hasn't taken him long to find speed, to find victories. And here he is tonight. They'll bring it around and burn it down in front of the virtual grandstand. Kevin Martin, again, is your race winner here in Music City. Taking a look at the rest of the results here tonight, it is James Harris finishing in second. Bryce Rayner takes home third. Nathan Meyer fourth, with Jameson Correa fifth. William Mann Jr., actually that's Wesley Carter, I apologize, that takes home sixth. William Mann Jr. finishes seventh. It's Tyler Meeks in eighth. Caleb Forsyth in ninth. It will be Brad Thacker rounding out your top 10. Kevin Kirchar takes home 11th here tonight. Rounding out the field is Toby Ritters in 12th. All right, well, as the 96 continues to celebrate and burn it down here at Nashville, we're going to go grab him along with your other 2 podium finishers for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Nashville. All right, welcome back to Nashville Superspeedway. Going to start first here tonight with your race winner, and that is Kevin Martin. Kevin, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah. How's it going?
It's going good, man. How's it going for you here? 2 weeks, 2 wins. You get the job done here tonight at Nashville Superspeedway, and I mean, I got to ask, what was the difference there at the end? It seemed like all of the front runners were really more even than what we've seen most of the season. And then all of a sudden, right there at the end, you look like you get shot out of a cannon. You go up and attack the 55, and once you get around them, you pull away from the field.
Yeah, I was a little short on fuel there, so I had to save a little fuel, and I was saving a little bit of tire. This is one of my favorite tracks, so, I mean, I expect to run well here.
Well, you certainly ran well here tonight. And, you know, I know we're not going to be able to talk about you in the championship battle this season, but, you know, 1 race left. Obviously, I know you're looking forward to that. But next season, we go over to fixed setups. Do you feel like there's any momentum you can take this season from the open sets and still carry it over to next year?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The trucks will drive different, but the concept is still the same. You got to save a little bit to be fast in the long run. And, you know, we show that long run speed week in, week out here.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Kevin, before we let you head out tonight to go celebrate the victory, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I think Team Conti, teammates Bryce and Jameson. Thank you for broadcasting. Thanks, James Harris, for putting this on. Hope to see you next week.
Sounds like a plan. And Kevin, we appreciate you talking to us. Congrats on the win, and we'll see you next week. All right. That is going to now bring us to your second place finisher here tonight. He was able to get the job done at Texas and looked like he might have been able to get win number 2 tonight. That's James Harris. James, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Austin, how's it going?
Good. Well, man, you had speed tonight like you did at Texas, and I thought maybe it was going to be win number 2, but looked like maybe you needed just a little bit more there at the end.
Yeah, we had a very, very dominant truck tonight. I mean, we led, I think, 50 of the 90 laps, and she felt good the entire run. I think what hurt us there was a little side contact with Bryce when we were racing for the lead. I think that hurt my aero and killed it because at that point she started getting really tight on me. And unfortunately, Kevin was able to capitalize on it and steal a win from me.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. But hey, overall, a great finish here tonight. Now, I want you to look forward to next week because with the way points are kind of set up, you're basically locked into where you are. You're not going to lose a position in points, and realistically, you're probably not going to gain a position in points. So with that in mind, do you set up to go out next week and just go for the win and try to end the season with a trophy?
We're going to go full Carson Hocevar next week, baby. We're going to do it for Dale. we can't go up or down, so we're going to race hard and do what we can do to try to get that win next week. And unfortunately, I don't know if Nathan's going to be able to make it next week. So hopefully he makes it back in time. He has to make a airport run, but I'm hoping he comes back in time to make it a good championship race. Because if not, then it'll still be a fun race, though.
Absolutely. Well, hey James, before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'm gonna thank my wife Courtney for supporting my sim racing all these years, and she watches all the races. Hi, babe, I love you. Want to say thank you to Kevin Kirchner of Blackstone Management, Grindstone Developments, Champion Power Equipment, and we had curb records on the truck tonight with our buddy Tim Duggar. If you haven't listened to him, go to Spotify and check him out. He's got some good stuff.
James, thank you for talking to us. Congrats on the second place finish here tonight, and we will see you next week at Michigan.
All right, man, appreciate it.
All right, and now that's going to bring us to your final podium finisher here tonight, the man who takes home third, and that is the 87 of Bryce Rayner. Bryce, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, Austin.
Well, you take home third here tonight, and man, the first week in a while, it feels like we're not talking to you in victory lane, but you still had a good truck. Some contact, though, between you and the 55. I want to see what your take was first on that.
I don't really want to, shoot anybody under the bus, but I mean, it's for right there for the win and the lead with 20 to go or so. Yes, there's contact, but I mean, I knew he was getting tight, and I knew he was going to come up the track, so that's why I gave so much space, and just to get the runoff of 2, because the high lane is just so dominant defensively. You can use that to your advantage pretty well. So that's what I was planning on doing, because I was honestly just sitting behind him saving some tires. So I knew I had a better car than him. I guess he got tight, but when he used me up like that, it gave me some left front suspension damage, so I couldn't really turn after that. And so I was just holding on to P3 as long as I could to try to gain a solid point on Nathan. But other than that, I felt like we had a great car, and it feels defeated in a way, but then again, I was able to salvage something from it. So yeah, that's all I got right now for that incident.
Yeah, well, you salvaged that 1 point. It's crucial because now it puts you within 1 point of the championship leader, Nathan Meyer. Now, obviously, assuming that he is able to make the race next week, what is the game plan in that one, especially if it were to come down to just you and him at the end? What's the mindset?
Well, I didn't know he might be a late make to the race next week. That really does put a hindrance on the championship battle, and I really hope that he's able to make it, because I don't want to win a championship like that. So I hope he makes it. I hope it's a great battle. I've been putting some practice in for Michigan, and honestly, I can say right now, unless things change, it's going to be a dogfight, because me and Kevin both said it. We both suck at Michigan, especially trying to save tire, and you just kind of getting wicked free on entry, exit, both ends of the track. So it's definitely going to be one hard fought win, whoever pulls that out. But we're just going to hope that we finish one spot in front of Nathan to tie at least. And, you know, if we get a chance to maybe make that 2 points on them, then we go for it. But if not, we'll take the championship tied after the race.
Going to be a good one to watch for sure. But hey, before we let you head out tonight, Bryce, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just want to give a shout out to all the competitors that come out here week in and week out. It's awesome to have this. I know we're going fixed next season, so that'll be interesting. But again, not sure if I'll make that season, but we're going to try for, part-time scheduling. But yeah, shout out to Kevin and Jameson for running a great race as they did. Kevin was fast. I knew he was fast. So once I got that damage, he kind of, I was just like, you go get him, because I know you're probably a little bit faster right now than James. So you go get the win. And then Jameson was kind of hanging on. I think he fell back just a little bit for tire sake wise, but hats off to those two, and of course myself for bringing home a P3 with that. Again, shout out to you up in the booth for putting us up on PGR for all the family friends who are watching. My dad's watching too. He's kind of pissed that I got P3, but hey, that's racing, so we'll carry that on to next week. But Team Conti Sim Performance, Digital Sim Sports, Martin PC, everybody who is on my truck. They put in a lot of work to get these sets correct, and all of our teammates come together too. So it's always world class over there, and appreciate them for everything that they do. And we'll go on to next week.
And Bryce, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the third place finish. And yes, we will see you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, Austin.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Nashville Superspeedway. Kevin Martin takes 2 in a row, getting the job done here tonight in Music City. But overall, a great race. And if you liked what you saw tonight, you are going to love what you'll see next week in the championship at Michigan. So make sure you tune into that. As for tonight, that's it for me, Austin Green, here on PGR eSports. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed. And until next time, have a good night.